Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of He Said, He Said, He Said, a look at the world from a seasoned Black man's perspective. I'm your host, Alvin King, and welcome to our Friday, November the 15th live episode, ladies and gentlemen. I hope everyone's doing well. We haven't seen you in a couple of weeks. And as you know, the beginning of November, Bobby and I, we were traveling and couldn't see you guys. But, the intent was to come back the week of November the 8th to have another show. But that week was a pretty tough week for many of us, ladies and gentlemen. That was the week that the elections were held. And if you were like me, I was in a very disappointing place. Even though I was cautiously optimistic, I was very hopeful that the turnout was going to be different. So we thought for November the 8th, many of you were calling asking what happened because we usually run a previously aired episode. We decided to just go completely black. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So we are back and we are here and we are doing well. And I want to start off this show this way tonight. I want to send something very personal to someone. Dear Vice President Kamala Harris, I wanted to take a moment to express my heartfelt gratitude for all of the energy, dedication, and joy you have brought to the 2024 presidential election. Your hard work and passion inspired so many of us, and I'm truly grateful for the commitment you have shown to our country. Thank you and to your amazing team for everything you've done and continue to do. With our deepest appreciation, Alvin King and everyone here at He Said, He Said, He Said Live, ladies and gentlemen. So wanted to make sure I said that and got that out because, wow, brace yourself because we're all in for a bumpy ride, ladies and gentlemen. How you doing, Michelle? Thank you and welcome to the show tonight. And speaking of our show tonight, we are having a conversation with celebrity hairstylist Vernon Martin, now a published best-selling author with his new novel, When the Smoke Clears. Vernon shares his story with transparency and courage, revealing that there is light at the end of every dark tunnel. And he leans into his faith and shares with us, the reader, the power of trusting God as a strategy to achieve victory. I have read the book. And I called him on Monday before we went into production for the show tonight to let him know I can't love him anymore. I mean, his courage has just inspired me, and I'm so glad to have him on the show tonight, ladies and gentlemen. And I can't wait for you to hear more of what he has to say about the book and for you to go out and purchase the book, ladies and gentlemen. It is American Diabetes Awareness Month. And for many of you who don't know, I'm a diabetes advocate. And diabetes is a serious medical condition that affects millions of Americans, particularly African Americans. It's estimated that 1 in 10 Americans have diabetes, and many people don't even know it. More than 1 in 3 adults have prediabetes, which is when blood sugar is elevated, but not high enough to be diabetes. But I want you to go to diabetes.org, if you may, and learn more about diabetes. Please go get checked because, again, a lot of us are walking around not knowing what our status is regarding diabetes, and diabetes there are different illnesses associated with diabetes that can kill you. It is also Transgender Awareness Week, and I want to take this opportunity to celebrate and uplift and honor our trans community while challenging anti-trans legislation is really in effect, ladies and gentlemen. And if you will, go to hrc.org to learn more about what you can do. We have an amazing show tonight, and we're going to make sure that we take you on this journey that I've been on all week. So I don't do what I do alone. So if you all are ready to get my co-host in here, let's get on with the chat. Bobby.
Alvin, let me say hello. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you.
I also want to say thank you. Thank you for those wonderful words of gratitude expressed to Vice President Kamala Harris. As you know, and everyone here knows, I'm a very, very proud Howard University graduate. And I was actually there on campus that Tuesday night, hoping to really bear witness to history/herstory being made. It was a very, very somber night as the night went on, coming to the realization that the odds were not in her favor. And, hearing her concession speech the next day when she came out, just the grace, the brilliance, the intelligence, I just guess her spirit and her energy was just so profound. It made me, I was so proud, but I was also very sad because I was like, this is what America said, no, this is
Well,
what we want.
and I'm going to do my best to keep it on an upswing with that because, yes, we are where we are, but with this show, I really want to make sure that we bring as much humor and joy as we possibly can in these troubled times.
Absolutely.
And that is why I just thought, let me thank her.
Yeah.
Let me just thank her and keep it moving. Yeah, I want to happy. I want to be happy. Oh, let me stop before they, somebody shut us down. Bobby, how you doing today?
We do. Well, one of the things that we are reminded of is I often say that if we listen carefully, the ancestors whisper to us, we've got you. We've been through, we went through a lot for you to be where you are today. And so we must remember that we stand on the shoulders of ancestors who've endured a lot. And together we will push through this insanity that awaits us. And it's some insanity that awaits us, but we'll get through it, and we'll get through it together.
Like we do everything else. So what's going on in your world? Oh, before you start, let me say hello to, hey, Alma, hey, Monica, hey, Pauline. Thank you for joining Bobby and I. I think I said Michelle earlier. Did I say hello to Michelle?
Yeah, you said meet you. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, how you doing? So what is going on in your world, Bobby?
Well, as we talk about, some of the things that are challenging us, I know that every day that I turn on the news, there are a lot of announcements about appointments and things like that are calling into question. This very same thing is happening in terms of the Supreme Court. There is discussion out here now, thinking strategically about whether or not there should be moves made currently that can impact the longevity of the Supreme Court, and in particular, looking at Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor and asking whether or not it is strategically wise for her to step down now. And part of this is in relation to the concerns that people had about Ruth Bader Ginsburg and her not stepping down. And when she did leave, it presented the opportunity for other judges, more conservative judges, to be inserted. And so the question is, strategically, does it make sense for Sonia Sotomayor to step down? Well, she has made it very, very clear that she has no plans of stepping down. And, what she said was that, she's in great health. And she, many people say that she is a very, very liberal voice. She's 70 years old. A lot of people don't understand the process of getting a Supreme Court nominee, even, before the board to be able to be approved takes months. And so, the question is, she's been, as you speak about diabetes, she has been a very confident person speaking about her own diabetes. She is a type 1 diabetic. But again, she's 70 years old. She's in great health. And she is clearly one of the most liberal voices that we have on the Supreme Court. So she's saying no.
And I would stick to it. I if I were her, I wouldn't do it. But the fact that, we have folks that are currently moving into the White House,
Yes,
what have you, that want her to leave, I'm not surprised. But I hope she sticks to her guns. And I wouldn't drink anybody. If they gave me water, the cap would have to be tight, or it would have to come from a family member. Yes, okay, because I wouldn't be bothered with it. So
the concern is that obviously that, if she stays, and let's say she stays for 2 more years, with this other administration in, which is a 4-year, obviously, administration, that they would then be positioned to put a more conservative judge. And then, of course, we all know that Supreme Court justices, it's a lifelong term. So the question is, should the Democrats and more liberal people put someone in there who could be a younger person who's of good health that could be there for a much longer time? That's what they're concerned about, that if anything happens within the next 4 years, during this conservative administration that it positions them to put in another conservative judge, because there are 2 Supreme Court judges that they're thinking are going to be stepping down soon within the next couple of years. And it's likely that the Republican Party is going to put in a young conservative judge who will be there for a very long time because of the length of their term. So
again, it's not a newsflash to me. I hope she sticks to her guns and not let them push her out.
Well, she's made it very clear she has
that's my take on that. But I'm not surprised by anything that was coming ahead. Well, I'm not, but
welcome up, boys and girls.
but what also I think is coming ahead all of a sudden now, this whole look at Secret Service and how they are how they should protect, the highest person in office, how they should do that. And this new story has come out about a Secret Service agent who took his ex-girlfriend to Barack and Michelle Obama's beach house in Hawaii. And a new memoir has allegedly claimed that this Secret Service agent breached security protocols and invited his then girlfriend by the name of Corey Dewan, and Corey is spelled Koryeh, just to be sure, to the beach house for 4 of the former President Barack Obama. She alleged the incident happened in 2022 and is now raising serious questions about the security protocols in place around current former U.S. presidents. But I'm sure they're looking at the current president as well because of what has just happened. But according to her new book, according to Undercover Heartbreak, a memoir of trust and trauma, this is her latest memoir. Corey said that this Secret Service agent took her there and told her that nobody would ever know. I don't know if he knew who he was dating, but told her that nobody would even know. But then she found out that he was married. And so she wrote a book. And I guess many of you would ask the question, did such incidents take place? Well, according to the chief, Anthony Galimi, he hasn't confirmed that it did take place.
He has not.
He has confirmed that it did.
Oh.
That it did take place. I bring this up because all of this is happening now since the person who's now in office has been shot, and people probably know that people want to do something crazy. Barack Obama should have been protected without fail when he was in office, but they didn't do that. But now all of a sudden, I share this with you and our viewers, that, Secret Service is just as crooked as anybody else that you feel is crooked.
I have never seen the state of the Secret Service seem to be more unsettled of late. Like it's really concerning because, the training and all that they have to go through and the commitment that they make, because the reality of it is a thankless job in many ways. They put their lives literally on the line every single day that they come to work, that anybody who's attempting to get to the people that they're protecting, they are trained to put their lives in front of those people. So I acknowledge the importance and the danger that they put themselves, the line of danger that they put themselves into every day. But they have been of late a hot mess, like drinking and getting drunk, and when they're on detail, and I don't know what's going on with the Secret Service.
They have truly been a mess, and but I have a feeling that it's going to get cleaned. I won't say get cleaned up. I think that the mess it will be more of a mess. It will be more of a mess. Again, I'm not very hopeful about anything that lies ahead. So I think it's going to be more of a mess. But the fact that he would take her there and think that she wouldn't talk, and now Corey has written a book, and.
Okay. Corey, with a very interesting spelling, Corey.
Corey has written a book. Okay, right.
All right. Well, we're going to keep this rolling. I know that some of you are aware of the fact that we lost a great music legend and icon, Quincy Jones, who passed on November 3rd at the age of 91. The music icon was laid to rest in a private ceremony earlier this week, with a larger memorial being planned, because, of course, you can't say goodbye to Q in a quiet way. There's so many people who want to pay tribute. He has made such an impact on the music industry that you can only imagine the memorial service. He's worked with everyone from Ray Charles to Frank Sinatra, Michael Jackson. He died peacefully in his home in Bel Air, California, surrounded by his children, siblings, and other family members, whether it be music, movies, of course, Color Purple, etc. Quincy Jones was a legend whose legacy will live long. And we all can all think of a song or a movie or something that he put his hands on, his creative hands on. And look at this family. Oh, look at this family. A big, beautiful, extended family. So we want to say rest in peace, Q. The most recent report is that he passed away of pancreatic cancer.
Yeah, may he rest in peace. Definitely a huge loss to the entertainment industry. And we just showed a picture of his family.
Yes.
And, for those of you who don't know, Q loved his family and his 7 children. I mean, he loved them. And we learned this week that he left his 7 children each $83 million each.
Each one has
$83 million each in his will to each of his 7 kids. And so and he left the rights to his, and they, along with substantial stake in the music producer's rights to his music. He left all of that. He prepared all of that. And so if I couldn't admire him any more than I do, that right there, taking care of your family and building that legacy.
Oh, Alvin. Oh, are you there?
By the way, he was sitting pretty. He was worth $581 million himself. So there you have it. There you have it. Rest well, Q.
Rest well, Q. Can you imagine someone saying you've been left $83 million?
I really can't. I can't. But his children can. So yeah. All right.
No cost of money to replace their father, and that I'm sure is the reality as well. So speaking of legendary, in 2002, Halle Berry was the first African American woman to win an Oscar for a lead role in a movie. She won it for Monsters Ball. And she wore the design of Elie Saab. It was an extraordinary outfit. And all these years later, in a celebration over in Saudi Arabia, celebrating Mr. Saab, 22 years later, here is Halle Berry walking the runway in that very same dress. And I argue looking as nice, if not even better, in said dress. It was an extraordinary star-studded celebration over in Saudi Arabia that included Jennifer Lopez, Celine Dion, Camila Cabello. It was a huge, well, you know how they do things over there. It was over the top and extraordinary and all that. But just a fashion, he said bow to Halle Berry for 22 years later, rocking that dress and rocking it quite well. We say,
I'm not mad at her. I'm not. And since we're talking about fashion, I want to give a big nod to close out our chat to Pharrell Williams. Louis Vuitton has deemed him GQ designer. GQ has deemed him designer of the year for 2024. Oh, wow. And if you're wondering, how Pharrell's gig at Louis Vuitton is going over the last 20 months that he's had this appointment, the luxury house has reported that it represents the crown jewel of Bernard Arnault's $300 billion empire. And because of Pharrell, it has more than tripled the footprint of his men's creative director's office in Paris. And I just wanted to just say, I am team Pharrell all the way. If we could just go back through his fashion looks just one more time.
I love that one where he's kind of
Pharrell just knows how to do it, and he does it in a way that makes it acceptable. He doesn't look like he's trying to be something that he's not. And he's staying true to himself. I am totally team Pharrell, and I'm so glad that GQ has given him this honor because it is well deserved.
This is particularly interesting given the upcoming Met Gala theme and Black men in fashion, the dandy, and all of that. So congratulations. He's not DC per se, but down Virginia Beach, not too far from it.
He's down Virginia. He's doing pretty good. Yeah. No, I'm glad. So congratulations, for real. So Bobby, are we ready to get our special guest in here tonight? Because
yes, indeed we are, because there's much to ask.
There's much to ask, and like I said, I've read the book, and I want all of you to as well. So Vernon Martin is a renowned hair artisan, author, and entrepreneur, styling hair and beautifying women for over 36 years. He established the Vernon Martin Salon and Day Spa in 1998 to serve longtime clients and to mentor a new generation of talented artists in his hometown right here of Washington, D.C. Vernon's Hollywood A-list client includes such celebrities as Kerry Washington, Shonda Rhimes, Angela Bassett, Patti LaBelle, and that's just to name a few. In 2017, Vernon teamed up with Erica Campbell of the dynamic gospel duo Mary and founded the social venture Erica by Erica Campbell, the ambassador of Vima Couture Hair. Vima is a cause-driven startup focused on bringing high-quality wigs and hair extensions to market so that it can support philanthropic efforts and empower young women. Tonight, he's here with us to talk about his explosive debut novel, When the Smoke Clears. Please welcome my friend, Vernon Martin.
Hi, Bobby. Hey, Alvin. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Hey, no, thank you for being here, my brother. You know what? Like I said backstage, we have a lot to talk about because, ladies and gentlemen, after reading the book, I had about 40 questions and I had to bring it down to 17. So we're not
going to be able to do that in an hour.
we can't do that. So, okay, buckle your seatbelts, okay? So, Vernon, look, again, congratulations. And, you know, for our viewers, because we're going to talk about When the Smoke Clears, you know, we're going to talk about that more in depth. But can you tell us why you chose this name as a title for your debut novel?
Great question. I chose When the Smoke Clears because I thought about, I have been in a fog basically most of my life. You know, I said that in every, it's so interesting, in every genre of my life, I went through something, and everything was always, there were so many unanswered questions for me. You know, I did not know why things were happening. Sometimes you have experiences in your youth, and often you take them into adulthood, and then you don't understand, why am I being the way I'm, the way I am. Mm-hmm. And one day I was watching a movie, and I don't know why this movie brought such clarity to me. It was Guardians of the Galaxy at that, and I was bored one night, and it was in December, and it was really, really nice outside. I went to a beer garden, and I was looking at it, and this guy was, Kurt Russell was talking to the guy. What was his name? I can't remember. It was the guy that the young guy played, Peter, but I can't think of his real name. Is it Ryan somebody? I don't know.
No, I think
don't get me started.
It's Chris. It's Schwarzenegger's daughter's husband, Chris. What's his name?
Chris Pratt. Chris Pratt.
That's it.
Chris Pratt. And the guy told him, he said, "You're not my." No, he said, I'm actually no. So the guy was actually his father, but he didn't know it. Kurt Russell, mm-hmm. And the guy that saved him was the villain, was one of the villains. Mm-hmm. And he actually said he gave his life for him. Mm-hmm. And he said, I may not have birthed you, but I might not be your father, your daddy, or something like that. And mm-hmm. It made me think of my grandfather. Right. And so at the time it made me go to the beer garden, I was battling with some things. I was like, I couldn't sleep at night. Mm-hmm. And one of my friends, I think you know him, Alvin, Michael Gibson.
I know the name. I know the name. Yes.
Yeah. And so Michael was like, Vernon, he didn't move so many times, but he lives in Mexico now. But anyway, he said, Vernon, what you should do is just talk into your phone. I said, what do you mean? He said, just turn on your memo and just talk until you go to sleep. And I said, okay. So I did that. And I kept doing it. And next thing you know, by the time COVID hit, I didn't do it like every night. By the time COVID hit, I was up to like 36 or 37 recordings, but they were like hours long, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so COVID hit. So when COVID hit, that was the time where I had to sit still because I was ever since I was younger, I was always running. You know, I was always trying to find
Excuse me,
something to
Vernon.
do.
Sorry to stop you, but is this how you got to When the Smoke Clears?
Yes. Because when
Wow.
COVID hit, I had to sit still.
Mm.
And when I
Okay.
sat still, I was like, oh my God. You know, and then I had to start, I kept then I started writing, got on my computer and started writing. And then I could start feeling I had two emotions. I had a little bit of healing, but then I had a little bit of anxiety because I
Mm.
started reliving because I never really relived those things.
Mm-hmm.
And so I could feel myself literally, like I said, coming out of the smoke, you know, coming from the fog and coming into, you know, some type of healing. And so that's when I was like, I need a name for this. And then I came up, I said, When the Smoke Clears, because things are starting to move.
Wow.
So I was
So
like, that's
you
what
were
I'll do.
writing the book. You were already writing it before you even came up with the
Yeah, but I
name.
didn't know. But you know what's so
Right.
interesting? I did it like for therapy. And I
Mm.
let my son listen to some of my recordings and my friend. And as they listened to my recordings, tears were coming down their face.
Mhm.
And so I sent it to my friend Michael, and
Mm.
Michael said, You have a book. And I was
Mhm.
like, Huh? He said, You have a book. He said, You need to write a book. You need to find you an editor, you need to find you a publisher, but this is a book.
Mhm.
And I
Well,
was like, Really?
one of the things that Alvin spoke about when he was reading it was that your vulnerability and how openly you're writing a book. And tell us
Yeah.
a bit about the choice to be as open as you were about some of those experiences that you mentioned.
I have got, I was a very timid young man. You know, I was a very timid little boy. I wanted everybody to like me. I was always so giving and accommodating. And as I got older,
Mm-hmm.
I started saying, I don't know if I can curse, F them, And
That was good. Okay.
yeah, F them. And I was like, I do not care. I no longer care what anybody thinks.
Mhm.
I no longer
Mhm.
care what anybody thinks of me. And this is my story,
Mhm. Mhm.
and I had learned to accept that what happened had happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, I just went for it. I didn't care. I really didn't. I did not care. I talked to my son first. I did talk to him
Mm-hmm.
because I wanted him, he didn't know my story.
Mm-hmm.
That, he knew little things. And I was like, some things are going to come out that I don't think, I don't know how you're going to handle it, especially around your friends and,
Mhm.
and or whatever. He was like, Pop, you do what you got to do. This is for
Mhm.
you. And I
Mm-hmm.
said, okay,
Well,
well, then that's what I'm gonna do.
Well,
well,
kudos to you.
go ahead, Bobby. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say kudos to your son. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and kudos to you. I
yeah.
was in reading a book in chapter 5 on stolen innocence. It talked about you being sexually assaulted at the age of
Mm,
6.
mm-hmm.
Okay, but knowing that occurred because I read the book, describe other aspects of your childhood during those years, Vernon.
I had a great childhood other than that. I grew up on Capitol Hill. I had a grandfather who I tell everybody, my grandfather was a real man. I tell people that. And I think that's where I get my ways from. He took care of family. He was strong and he was older. He was 21, if I'm not mistaken, years older than my grandmother.
Oh
And
wow.
actually, he was my great grandfather's best friend. And
Mm.
he was just a great influence on me. My mother, I didn't have that mother who partied. My mother was, she go to work, come home, make sure that I was doing my homework or whatever. She never was that mother who, oh, I'm going to party, I'm going to drink and smoke and do this. My mother did none of that. She wasn't a smoker, she wasn't a drinker. My grandmother, retired in like 1979 to help my mother because she had my sister by then, 79. And so You know, I grew up in that kind of home. So you would think that growing up in that particular type of home that these things wouldn't happen, but of course it's the people around you, your family, that this happened, you know, that
Mhm.
these kind of things
Mhm.
happen. And
Mhm.
then these are people who your family trust, you know.
Hmm.
And it
Hmm.
was definitely one of the reasons why my grandfather, if you remember in the book, told my mother, you all need to move back here, because he didn't like my father. So he was
Mhm.
like, you need to move back here. Vernon needs to have a father figure in the house with him, you know, and this and the other. My mother was like, I could take care of my son. I'm fine. You know, my mother had been with the VA since she was like 16 years old, because she was real smart. So in school, she got out half a day in 11th grade. And
Mhm.
she went to work at the Veterans Administration, and where she stayed for like 46 years.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
So, Vernon, I'm going to jump to your professional journey and your achievements
Hmm.
right now, and in relation to the book. You've been in this business for 3 decades, okay,
Uh-huh. Over
professionally,
three over three
over
decades.
3 decades.
But who's counting?
So
Who's
share
counting?
with us, how did you first become interested in hairstyling and entrepreneurship?
Oh, I loved it. I was a big fan of, you know, I don't know if you all did it, back when we grew up, our families all gathered in the living room and would watch whatever the big show was that was coming on. And we would watch the American Music Awards. That was a big deal. Or the Grammys, you know. So it'd be my mother, my grandmother. We take our baths. They got on their house coats and their hair, and I would get behind them and I would roll their hair. I would look at Aretha and Patty or Gladys, especially Gladys Knight, always had the baddest hairstyles. So I would look at Gladys Knight and I was like, I'm gonna make my mother hair look like that. I didn't know what I was doing. I was a little boy, and they would let me. And my grandfather would walk by. He was like, "What is going on?" And they would like, "Let him do it. He's fine." And I would play in their hair. And when I was in high school, my mom, I did not want to go to college. I did not want to go. And I did my SATs and everything. My mother was like, "You got these acceptance letters. What are you going to do?" And I was like, "I don't want to go to college." And so I said, "I'm going to go to hair school." And so she said, "Okay." She said, "Okay, you can go." She said, "I'll pay for it. You can go." I said, "Okay." And so that's how I wound up in hair school.
Wow, and I'm so glad that you said that, and you said it the way you did, because at 65 years old, um, I still talk about it. I think I've gotten over it, but my mother didn't let me go to Duke Ellington.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't, and so hearing you say that your
Mm-hmm.
mother did that and just fostered, encouraged you to do what you wanted to do, that is
Mm-hmm.
always a feel good for me. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So thank you for sharing that a part of that story about you and your mom and how
Uh-huh.
she encouraged you to do what you're doing. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, she
yeah.
was great. I remember, no, I have to tell you a story. I remember I was just telling somebody the other day, we were talking about H Street used to have this, it was called Woolworths, and it was on H
Mhm.
Street.
Hmm.
And I will never forget, I took my allowance and I snuck to Woolworth, and I was about maybe 14, and I had bought, they don't sell these anymore. There was a head, and it was a doll head, and it had like a base to it, and it had little makeup things on the front. And I'll never forget, I was trying to figure out, how am I going to go buy this and then get home, and my friends didn't see me with this big Woolworth bag with the doll. I cut through all the alleys and everything to get into the house, and I knew my mother wasn't home, and my grandmother more than likely was sitting in in the dining, I mean, in the dining room with the phone pulled from the kitchen, because they always had them long cords,
The Princess
gossiping
Prom.
with her sister. And I knew I could get through the door, and my grandfather always hung in the basement because he was a bootlegger. So he,
Hmm.
so I was like, I'm gonna sneak through the house and I'm gonna get this thing, and somehow I'm going to get this thing in the house. And I would take it up there, and I would just, it had like the fake curling irons, but I would go steal like my mom's curling irons and try to curl the dolls' heads and stuff like that. So I just always loved beautifying women, always.
That's a pretty impressive story there.
Uh-huh.
And it just so happens that we are three Washingtonians, so we know exactly where you're talking about. So
Uh-huh.
we know exactly what. So tell us though, were there particular challenges though in going from the theory of building your business and but to actually bringing it to fruition?
No, like I said, I must admit, I tell people all the time, I am so blessed. I'm so blessed. I have had nothing. God has truly put some great people in my life. Despite whatever I went through, it's like he'll put this bad person, this bad thing, and then all of a sudden, I have this good Glinda the Good Witch, here she come, or the Great Oz, but in a good way,
Yeah.
and
Speaking
what
of
happened? Yeah, yeah, and so I had some great influences in my life when it comes to this business, and the woman who salon I worked at, she was closing her salon, and what she did was she said, Vernon, she said her son had just passed. And I was like a son to her. She didn't do hair or anything. She worked in the government and she needed something to do. She needed a project. And I told her I wanted my own salon. And we went to a hair show. And I'm sorry, guys. We went to a hair show in New York. And I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good.
My thing is falling. We went to this hair show in New York. And she was like, whatever you want to get, we're going to get. And I was like, really? And she's like, yeah, we can get whatever you want to get. And I was like, what, 18? Her name was 18 King. She said, we cannot. I said, well, I'm not in a position to buy everything right now. And she said, don't worry about it. I'm going to take care of everything. And I said, really? And she said, yeah. And so she bought all my furniture. She said, you just pay me back whenever you get it.
What a blessing.
And she bought all my furniture. I mean, everything. She took care of everything for me. And I was so appreciative to her for that. To this day, we're still very good friends. I would do anything in the world for her.
Mm-hmm.
So, Vernon, I gotta ask, because again, ladies and gentlemen, he has run this business that he has exceptionally well. And we're going to talk about some of the people who he has worked with to get to do some of the things that he's done. But I want to ask you.
I hope you have the right questions, because I have some good ones.
I know that there are some obstacles that you had to overcome to get to where you are. Can you share some of those? Some of those obstacles.
How far you want me to go? Where you want me to go?
I want you to go wherever. The stage is yours. You on. He said. Okay, and it's three. You go wherever you want to go.
Well, one of the things that, of course, like you said, the one when I was raped for many years by one particular person, and that was. Let me tell you something. I don't know if anyone has ever experienced this, but to this day, I don't like white underwear. I don't like white underwear. He wore white. I do not like white underwear. You you bring Fruit of the Loom in front of me and I will regurgitate. I do not like them. I don't like, it's a lot of things I don't like, but I had a friend who, I have so much to tell you, but you said we ain't got time. I had a friend who, they had a house full of kids, and I went to visit her, and it was her brother who had done this, he had brutally raped me. And I never understood why her grandmother used to keep a lock on her door. Because her grandmother raised her, and she kept a lock on her door. And you can't even bring Vaseline around me. But so you know what he did with that. But
and I'm going to tell you right now, you can go to the edge of the cliff, but don't jump. And I know you know that. But go ahead. I want you to tell your story. I want to, because I know where. Like I said.
And so he brutally raped me. But what's interesting is recently my grandson had a birthday party in 2022, and my phone rung. And it was one of my old neighbors, and I was actually happy to hear from him. And straight guy, and he had told me, he said, Vernon, somebody want to speak to you. So I'm thinking he means somebody from the old neighborhood who I hadn't seen in a long time. I was like, sure. I said, who is it? And he told me who it was, and I hung up the phone. So I'm at a kid's birthday party, and for the first time in ever, and my friend Aisha was standing next to me because she had her grandson with her at the party. I had a complete meltdown.
Mm.
And she was like, "What's wrong?" And so, because that was the first time I
Mm.
had come close to seeing this or hearing his voice
Mm-hmm.
in over, I'm 54, so let's say about like 40 years, right?
Wow.
So um the young man called me back and he texted me. He said, no, he texted me. He said, "Hey, listen, I am so sorry um about that. Can you please call me when you get home?"
Mm.
So when he said nobody will be on the phone. So this guy, the guy who did this to me, has been in jail now for, oh my God, forever. They said. I don't know. I don't keep up with him.
Mhm.
And so I called him when I got home, my neighbor, my old neighbor.
Mhm.
And he said that he called his sister, who was older than us. And he told her what happened. And she said, "Why did you do that?"
Mm.
And he said, "Huh?" She said, "Why did you do that?"
Did
And
he
so
know?
she,
Did
no,
he?
no, he didn't
Well,
know. He was
he
younger
didn't
than
know.
me. He
Okay, he
was
didn't
younger than
know.
me.
Okay. Hmm.
But the guy who did this to me was their cousin.
Mm.
So remember what I just said? That was their cousin.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
So this straight guy, I love this young man. I call him like a little brother, and his sister like a big sister because I was very close to them. And but that was their cousin and
Mm.
that did that. And so they had another cousin who I was also like, they had a lot of kids in that house.
Mm-hmm.
So I called him and he said, "I want to apologize for what happened." He said, "But I want to share something with you." And I said, "What?" And he said, "Do you remember when I had to go into the hospital?" And I said, "No." And I don't remember that. He said, "When I was 7, he gave me PCP." And I said, "What?" And he
Wow.
said, "He gave me PCP." He said, "And my brother, who in my book is the one who jumped on him when he caught him trying
Hmm.
to drag
Yeah.
me in the
Hmm.
basement." He
Yeah.
said, "My brother beat the shit out of him."
Hmm.
And he said, "I tripped out." Now, that made sense because this little boy used to be the most sweetest little boy. Then all of a sudden, he became a little boy who would go in alleys and get dead rats with his hands and chase us and throw them at us. You know, he was like tripping. And I was to say, "What's wrong with this little boy?" But he was a good little boy until then. I never knew that.
You never knew what happened.
I never knew. I did not know. So the girl who is the sister of him, she recently I missed her at a funeral and somebody said, "You just missed Vernon. Oh my God, you should see him." And so she called me and we were talking and I told her I wrote a book and I told her what happened that I wrote about her brother. And she said to me, "I know." And I said, "How do you know?" She said, "He told me." And she said, "And I told him don't ever call my phone again." She said, "He wanted me to call you because he wants to apologize to you." And I don't know, Alvin. I'm just not at a. I part of my daily routine is learning forgiveness.
Mm.
That has become part of my daily routine,
Hmm.
and um, the concept of what happened to me, I feel as though it happened, and it happened. I'm done.
Hmm.
That's the whole thing. You know, I have accepted it. I've
Hmm.
accepted that this has happened, and for whatever reason, God got me through it, but I just can't find it in me to totally forgive him. I just can't. I
I
can't
think, I think
because I can't because there are a lot of things that I did growing up that I blame him for. You
mm,
know, I
Hmm.
became very promiscuous.
Hmm.
You know, I had even gotten to a point where I feel like I had started to fall for him because
Mm.
you got to remember, I
Trauma,
have
right?
been dealing with this for
For
years,
years, right?
you
Right.
know, until I got to a point where I was like, "You disgust me." He
mm,
started to disgust me.
mhm,
So I had found myself like, I remember one incident where I went looking for him.
mm,
You know, I had to be maybe 11 or
Hmm.
12. You know, I become very sexually. active, with men. And, there were things that I didn't even put in the book that I feel people couldn't even handle,
Right. Yeah.
and for me, I have gotten to a point where I became a pleaser of men. I wanted to please them. I didn't care what happened with me. I wanted to please them. I didn't want men angry with me. You know what I mean? I went through a lot from no longer dealing with him till probably almost 40 is when my eyes started opening. I could not be in a relationship for long periods of time. You know, when I would have sex, once it was done, I would be like, I'm done.
But that was the
I'm
trauma
done.
that you were going through. That
Absolutely.
was,
Yeah.
yeah. And first of all, I thank you for sharing that story,
Hmm.
Vernon. That again, I told you all earlier. I I can't love this guy any more than I do for telling your
Hmm.
story. But I'm gonna wrap this up in a few minutes because I want people to go get the book. You can get the book on Amazon. It is When the Smoke Clears. Please, you can go to
Hmm.
Amazon and get it. It's there. But Vernon, I want to ask you real quickly, what do you hope readers take away from your story?
Mm. What I want people to know is that there is light at the end of the tunnel. There's light at the end of the tunnel, and I had gotten to a point where I had stopped fighting. I stopped praying. I stopped, all of that because I was brought up. My grandfather, who was a man who did not go to church, made me go to church, and I believe all that was for a reason, but I'll never forget, I cried to one of my boyfriends and I said, God has forgotten about me. But what I had to go back and look at was that he really had not forgotten about me,
Mm-hmm.
because again, there were different in every little era of my life. I had these great things that would happen for me. I never wanted for anything. I made money. I had people in my life who loved me unconditionally. I actually had a good family base. My friends are, whoever say that friends don't last, I have friends who've been my friends for over 40 years. And to this day, I don't care how mad we get each other, whatever. I will never hear my business. They will never hear. I would never tell their business. We always look out for each other. I just think that we have to sometimes realize that um, time heals all wounds. And I know it's cliche-ish, but it's true.
It's true.
Time really does, but you have to be ready for it to happen.
That's
You
right.
have to want it to happen. And so many of us are addicted to struggle that we don't allow ourselves to get through, because we like being, I don't want to say the victim because I don't want to even look at myself or anybody else like that. We just, like I said, we just get addicted to struggle, and
Well,
we just feel as
you
though
don't know what
struggle
you
is
don't
the
know.
best. Yeah, and you don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you
And
don't know.
so, and I know I was definitely a person. I see, I'm one of the people, I don't mind telling you about myself. Some people don't want to tell you about this. I know I was a person who was addicted to struggle, not even struggle, trauma. I was addicted to trauma. Struggling, no. Trauma, yes. I would find every reason why something was traumatizing for me, And then I had to learn that no, just like now I'm to a point I don't want to argue with people. I refuse to, even if you're arguing, I'm going to find a way to pull back and look at you like you're crazy and say, I'm not doing this with you. You sit there and do this on your own because I just can't do it. I'm not doing it.
De-escalation is the key.
Well,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
there's also something to be said about maturity as one gets older and
Hmm.
realizing the things that you can control and those that you can't. And you
Mm-hmm.
talked very openly about this process, the time heals wounds and struggle and so forth. So for someone who may be struggling with a very similar situation of abuse or just not feeling valued and appreciated. What would you say is the first step to the healing process, though?
I had to go get help. I had to go see somebody. I did. I had to go see a therapist. You know, I did not want to. Your friends is not enough. I'm sorry. Your family,
They don't have degrees. They don't have.
Yeah. I had to go to an impartial person who I could really sit. I never forget the first day I walked into my therapist's office, and I just talk, and I couldn't believe I was doing that. You know, and he just sat there and just looked at me like, you know, and I was just like, and this and that and this and that. And I mean, that between that and prayer, I went back to church. I had to go back to church. I had to. And I know a lot of people have a lot of negative things to say about church. It's what you get out of it. And just like with the Bible or with anything else, I'm an avid reader. I investigate everything. You know, I investigate it for myself. And I just know that there's so many things in the Bible that brought me joy. And like I was telling you, Alvin, I'm not gonna mention it. Something else that I'm about to do that we'll talk about later. But I just had to. I had to get rid of fear. I had to learn how to get rid of fear, you know, and fear of just not forgetting. I'm sorry, fear of just letting go, letting all of that go. Stop allowing that stuff to consume me. You know, I had to let that fear go. But I definitely think the main thing for me is getting help, you know, is getting help. My co-pastor, she told me, she said, you know, Vernon, she said, and it wasn't even about this, but I needed it. I was on the phone with her, my first lady, for like an hour. And she said, what did she say to me? She said, you know, Vernon, sometimes things don't make sense or life doesn't make sense, but God doesn't lie.
Come on now. And you know what? I'm gonna let you stop right there because we have to. That is the perfect segue to end our conversation with you. And because Vernon, first of all, all of our viewers out there, you can click, put your thumbs up. Whatever you have to do in the chat.
Some of the responses.
Please, I just want to say again, Vernon, thank you for coming on our show, telling your story, being as transparent as you are. You all, again, I don't use the word loosely when I say no. I know Vernon because of business. I don't know him. We're not, you know, bosom buddies, but I know him enough to say, I love you. And for what you've done, you have inspired me. And coming on my show, you have supported me. And I appreciate you. And I want everybody to please go to Amazon.com and get When the Smoke Clears.
I was just going to ask me about Aretha Franklin. I'm shocked you did.
I was going to ask you a whole bunch of stuff. We need to bring you back on. Okay.
Oh my God. I can't. You need to write a book about her alone.
Well, there's so many. Look, again, I wrote 37 questions, but I can't. We have to end our because I didn't ask you about Mary. Erica Campbell. I wanted to. There's
Cicely Tyson. I got stories.
But we will bring you back, and trust me, I will. So be ready for that. But I wanted to make sure that people know about the book, and they go out and they get the book and support him. Because,
please do.
You know, we don't support our own, ladies and gentlemen, sometimes. But I'm here to tell you, I'm here for him. And thank you for being here for me, Vernon. Vernon Martin, thank you for being on our show. Don't go away. We're going to bring you back.
Thank you, Bobby. Thank you, Alvin.
Oh, love you, man. We'll bring you back.
And be sure to check the responses. People have written some really moving comments about your story. So thank you so much.
Thank
you. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, we got a couple of things that we want to tell you about. First of all, can I have my producer to take us to the pop-up, please? Can you take us to the pop-up? Because we got some pop-up. We got some pop. We got a couple of things we need to let them know. We're talking about switching gears. So, Bobby, the movie, ladies and gentlemen, we want to tell you about two things that's one coming to the theater and one that's in the theater now. Yes. And right now, the Wicked press tour has started, and I'm telling you, Cynthia Erivo. I love Ariana Grande, but Cynthia Erivo is tearing it up. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say. She is tearing it up. And this press tour, they are showing out in everything. I haven't seen the movie yet, but I'm going to see it. And I'm a musical buff, and I'm going to drag someone to see it with me. Who's probably not a musical buff, but I want to see. I want to see the movie. Have you heard anything good about this movie, Bobby? Have you been following the press tour?
Let me tell you, I am so there. I'm going full throttle. I'm going iMac, 3Mac, whatever it is. Like I'm not watching the regular. I'm getting all the 3D, whatever I can get to be in Wicked. I'm going to be there.
Yeah. I am looking forward to it. I've never seen the play, but Cynthia Erivo is in it, and so I'm definitely I'm looking forward to seeing her. And I can tell you something that I did see, ladies and gentlemen, and I want to share with you all right now. Please, if you can find it in any theaters, please go see Luther Vandross's documentary, Never Too Much. I was in the movie on Wednesday night. I cried, I laughed, I sung, I applauded, I pointed my finger, I rolled my eyes. There were so many emotions because I grew up with this guy. And Luther Vandross is amazing. He's on everybody's everything.
Yes.
And people didn't know it.
Yeah.
Please go and see Never Too Much if you haven't seen it already.
Where did you see it, Alvin? I'm just curious. Where did you see it in the city here?
I went to a independent film theater in Silver Spring, AFI.
AFI?
Okay. Yeah, AFI. But it left yesterday. So, it's definitely playing someplace else. But that's what I wanted to talk about in the pop-up, ladies and gentlemen. That movie. Again, please go see Luther Vandross, because they say that when you hear his music that you go home and make babies. I don't think he sings that long, but he does do a number in that movie. He does do a tribute to someone, and believe me, you want to go home and have a baby. Okay, I'm just telling you right now, because he sings that song. Okay.
Wow.
So, ladies and gentlemen, next week, Bobby and I are back, and we are bringing back one of our favorite series, Aging While Black. And we will have, along with Bobby, we will have 4, incredible, smart, outspoken Black men, gay Black men. And we're going to talk about post-political trauma. Okay, this state that we're in right now, and we're just going to put it all out there, and we're getting it from 4 other people with 4 other opinions. Okay,
and you guys know this is a episode of our show that's particularly important to me, because it's how I actually became a co-host of the show after my appearance on that show. So
he showed that he impressed the heck, ladies and gentlemen, not the heck, the H-E, the word. He impressed the heck out of me. So here he is. But next week, please tune in, ladies and gentlemen. And before we leave and bring back our special guest, our words of the week this week, courtesy of Bobby: never force relationships or communication. If it's not mutual, then let it go. People know exactly what they're doing. If they want to match your energy, they will or would. Start rewarding inconsistency with unavailability. Let me say that again. Start rewarding inconsistency with unavailability. Allow them to lose you because of their lack of effort. And those are our words of the week. And if we could bring our special guest back onto the camera. There he is, ladies and gentlemen. There he is. And I'm so sorry. Believe me, I know there's some stories that you got up your sleeve that I'm sure our viewers want to hear.
He was name dropping. He was like, Riri.
I was shocked. I said, okay.
No, but believe me, I had to make sure, like I said, I wanted to make sure that, again, the book has inspired me to be better and to do better. Mm-hmm. And then you sharing your personal experience
has certainly moved our audience. Yes,
it's moved our audience. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in tonight. We're glad that you joined us, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode of He Said.
Vernon.
He said, thank you.
You all have a great week, and we look forward
Blessed weekend, everybody.
Take care, everybody. Thank you, Vernon.
Good night. Good night.
See, that's what